Hi friends, today we're going to look at our multiplying integers and rational numbers quiz. And we're going to start with number 1. Remember, when we talk about word problems, it's always important to highlight key pieces of information. So it says Rashawn and Jesse are playing a game where they lose points for each incorrect answer. Rashawn answers 2 3-point questions incorrectly, and Jesse answers 4 2-point questions incorrectly. If neither player has answered a question correctly, who is ahead? Explain. Okay, so they lose points for each incorrect answer. So here, Rashawn answers 2 3-point questions incorrectly. So that means he lost or minus 3 points for every 2 questions he answered there. And -3 times 2 is -6. Jesse answers 4 2-point questions incorrectly, so she lost 2 points for every 4 questions. -2 times 4 is -8. And we need to figure out which of these numbers is bigger, or who is ahead. So -6 is actually bigger than -8. If you picture a number line, we have -4, -5, -6, -7, -8, -9. For time's sake, I just have it abbreviated. But you can see that -6 is closer to 0 than -8. So -6 is going to be bigger than -8. And that -6 belongs to Rashawn. So Rashawn, while he's not ahead by very much, he is still ahead, is ahead. Moving down to number 2, -3 times -8. These are just multiplication facts. So I know when I multiply 2 negatives together, they become positive, and 3 times 8 is 24. Number 3, same thing. We're multiplying. Remember those parentheses when they're up against the integer? That means we multiply. So -7 times a +6, and -7 times 6 is -42. And moving down, looking at number 4, I'm going to do what's inside my parentheses first. So 5 minus 1 is 4. So that's -4 times 4. -4 times +4 is -16. So my answer to number 4 is just -16. Number 5 says, which equation correctly simplifies -1/2 times 9 plus 3? So when I have a problem like this, the first thing I want to do is just solve it the way I would solve it. So, and you could do it however works best for you. I just want to solve it before I look at the multiple choice. So I know 9 plus 3 is 12. And I'm taking a -1/2 of 12. Well, I know that half of 12 is 6. And a negative times a positive is a negative. So my answer here is going to have to be -6. Now, if I look at my answer choices, I know that A doesn't match that description. B doesn't match that description. C doesn't work. But letter D, I know that -1/2 of 9 is -4.5, and -1/2 of 3 is indeed -1.5. -4.5 minus 1.5 gives me that -6 I found when I solved it myself. So I know that letter D is our option for number 5. Number 6, it says select 2 expressions that are equivalent to -4/9 times 3/4. We're looking at the negatives and the positives here. So I'm going to go ahead like I did last time. I'm just going to solve -4/9 times 3/4. Remember that when I multiply integers, I can multiply, or fractions, I'm sorry. When I multiply fractions, I can multiply across the top and the bottom. -4 times 3 is -12. 9 times 4 is 36. Now I need to find my greatest common factor between 12 and 36. And I know that's going to be 12. So I'm going to divide both the top and the bottom of my fraction, the numerator and the denominator, by 12. That's going to give me -1, and 36 divided by 12 is going to give me 3. So my answer is -1/3. So right away I can see that B is going to be an answer choice. A is out. It's negative because remember when I multiply a negative times a positive, my answer is negative. Looking at C, positive 4/9 times positive 3/4. Well, there's a negative here, so that's not going to work. I can cross C off. Letter D, positive 4/9 times negative 3/4. That could work, right? Because we know that regardless, we didn't switch the fractions in letter D. All they did was move the negative. And I know that a negative times a positive is always going to be a negative. So letter D is a possibility. That will work. And letter E, when I multiply two negatives, they become positive, and my answer here is negative. So E is not going to work. So my answers for number 6 should be B and D. Moving down to number 7, Mr. Woods went to the gas station every week for 4 weeks. He spent $35.75 each time. How much money did he have at the beginning of the month? Okay, so I went for 4 weeks, and I spent $35.75 every time. I'm going to multiply that by 4, since I spent that each week. So actually, Mr. Woods is going to move this down, because that's going to be kind of tight. So 35.75 times 4. 4 times 5 is 20. 7 times 4 is 28. And that's 30. 0. Bring up the 3. 4 times 5 is 20 again. Add it to 3. That's 23. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 plus 2 is 14. All right, I'm going to cross off most top numbers. So now I need to move my decimal. This is the part that's kind of tricky when we're doing this. I need to move my decimal 1, 2 places to the right. 1, 2 places to the right. Or I'm sorry, to the left. Because of my original problem here, my decimal is 2 places over. I need to move it 2 places to the left in my answer. So that gives me an answer of $143. That's how much money I started the month with. Looking at number 8, it says solve negative 1 1/2 times 0.25 times negative 3. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to start by multiplying negative 3 times 0.25. You can start anywhere you want here. Those are just the numbers I chose to start with. So that's going to give me 5 times 0 is 0, 5 times 0 is 0, 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. I'm going to add a 0 as a placeholder. 2 times 0 is 0, 2 times 0 is 0, 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. When I add these together, my zeros come down, 5, and we're adding here. So let me get rid of these negatives because I don't want to make that confusing for us. We'll add the negative in at the end. I need to move my decimal 1, 2, 3, 4 places to the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That gives me 0.75. My answer is negative because a positive times a negative gives me a negative. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring in the last part of my problem, the negative 1 1/2. Now I'm going to make that into a decimal just so it's easier for us to solve. So when I solve this, it's going to be negative 1.5. I'm going to add that 0 to help me out, and the 0.75. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 1 is 5, and 5 plus 2 is 7. Bring a 0. 7 times 0 is 7. 7 times 5 is 35. 1 times 7 is 7. 7 plus 3 is 10. Now I can go ahead and add these two together. 5. 7 plus 5 is 12. That gives me a 1, and that gives me a 1. All right, so now I am going to bring my decimal 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 places to the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And now I need to determine if my answer is going to be positive or negative. Now, I forgot to add that negative on. That's what I was looking at. I forgot to add the negative on in the first place there. But when I multiply two negatives, I know that my answer is going to be positive. So my final answer to number 8 should be positive 1.125. All right, moving down to number 9, our last one. We're doing the same thing this time. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take negative 2.0 and I'm going to multiply it by 0.5. That's going to be 0. That's going to be 10, 0, 0, and 0. I'm going to add 0, 0, and 1. I'm going to move my decimal over 1 2 times, 1, 2. And then I'm going to add my negative in at the end. Remember that a negative times a positive is going to give me a negative. So this is negative 1. Now all I need to do is multiply negative 5 times negative 1. And I know when I multiply two negatives, they become positive. So my answer here should be positive 5. I wanted to show you how to solve that out. You also could have just known that negative 5 times negative 2 is a positive 10, and that half of 10 is 5. You could have done it that way as well. Good job, friends.